You're listening to Grace 95.5 FM, the home to entertainment and good talk. And this is Issues with Catherine. It's quite troubling that we have a system of abandoning projects. It's not just troubling, it's financially draining to start something and not finish it. When we look around from one administration to another administration, it is obvious that one administration starts something, they start a project, and then there is a transition from one administration to another, but that project just is left uncompleted, and that is like a menace. So let me welcome you officially to Issues today, where we'll be talking about abandoned projects in Kogi State and the challenges before us, and the concerns. So when over the abandoned projects, we've had uncompleted projects in Kogi State, elicited response from residents saying billions of nairas of public funds were spent on projects. Administration of the current administration inherited a number of uncompleted and abandoned projects from previous administration. Have they even looked into this abandoned project? Well, who knows? These are questions that we're going to be raising. Okay, so let's just delve into the conversation that we need to. Let's look at the problem of abandoning projects. What do you think is the thinking, the rationale behind administrations not looking back to improve or to complete a project that was started by their own by the previous or their predecessor? What do you think is the rationale behind that? So I'm going to come to you, Mr. Ambassador Idris, who's over here first, before I take a response from Mrs. Hamza Ali.
The term abandoned projects is simply put an endeavor, a project or a plan that had already been in progress. It has been initiated, funded, and it is subsequently left unattended to. And there could be several reasons for that. And such reasons are to do with availability of resources. Such reasons have to do with priority of the incoming government. Reasons such as political differences could be another reason. And I think in summary, all of the reasons are not reasons that actually resonate very well with the which are the beneficiary, because immediately you set in motion any plan or initiative, any endeavor that will positively impact the lives of the people, they have that noted in mind, and it sticks to their mind that this is going to come into life in the next maybe 1 year, 2 years, and all that. And somebody come into office and decide to just short life the project, so it doesn't really resonate with the people well. But however, there are several reasons that could be attributed to such. But in our own climb here, we could have other reasons that will be mentioned, but we know most times it has something to do about politics and priority of the incoming government. And don't forget that every government wants to have what they call a legacy project. They want to be noted with a particular project. They say, okay, I started and completed this one. Most of them forgot the fact that government is a continuum that we need to deliver to the people. We need to continuously engage and deliver to the people. So I think there are some of the reasons.
Okay, thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Hamza Ali, can we get your take on the matter?
In as much as it's very disturbing to see, to talk about the concept of abandoned projects, and mind you, when you say abandoned, you mean there's an intention. It's intentionally left a project, whether it is, and doesn't matter what the reason, but you intentionally leave a project, it means abandon. But it's very disturbing. As it's disturbing as it is, we need to ask ourselves, what is the cause? Why all of a sudden a project that looks good on paper, looks good as going to solve a problem, is a identified problem wants to solve, and then next government that comes or next set of people that are coming, even within the same political party, and you see that those people don't see that project as a priority. I think for me it has to do with the process in which we initiate programs for our people, whether political party or whether it is intervention by private sector. On paper, it should be a bottom-top approach where the people tell you what they want.
Need assessment.
You now implement what they want. So on paper, that's what we should have in the participatory and representative democracy. But what we have is a top-bottom approach, where it is the leaders who decide what you want, and then they push it down your throat. And to make it look as if it is you that said it, they actually do they have an environmental impact assessment they are going to do. They will do that. They even do a social impact assessment on what the project how it's going to affect you. But in the first place, it wasn't you that said that it was the project you want. And that is the main reason why when you see government come, government go, the people don't have much say about the project itself. If they did have say, they will hold the next government accountable to ask them, this project that is beneficial to us, what will you do with it? Will you continue with it? Based on that, we'll know whether we're going to vote you in or not. And so you see, a lot of times politicians just throw up projects because they feel it's a good thing to do and they want to use it to showcase their government. And so the people are always at the peripheral, at the outside the ring, looking into the project, and they say it's government project, not our project, despite the fact that it's very important to them. So I think we need to begin to change the way we see and implement projects for communities.
We have recurring flooding in the state, and we're prone to flooding in Lokoja metropolis, for instance. So if the 500 housing units is completed in the way it should be, do you think that would have served when we have issue of relocating those who are affected by the flood? Do you think that could have been like an area where we can look, where the government can use as a relocation center for people?
The problem is, why build that? What was it supposed to? What problem was it supposed to solve?
Address? Okay.
Did we adequately or effectively identify this problem, and then agree as a people that this is how we're going to go around it? Why build a permanent flood rehabilitation or whatever flood? What do you call it? Housing estate that can only be used during flood, which is on paper that's what it's supposed to be. Doesn't make sense. So it means you are so rich that you are able to put up a structure that you only use whenever there is a flood. So if we say flooding occurs yearly, which means we use it for about 34 months, then the people go away. Then we wait for the next flood, and those buildings will remain abandoned, unoccupied. It shows that we didn't think about it clearly. It was more of a knee-jerk reaction. And if you notice, when you said these projects have our monies tied down, some of these projects were actually borrowed to do it. We're still drawing down on those borrowings that we did, and we're still paying back those loans. And these projects have not been finished. The 11-story Kogi housing, whatever it is in Abuja that was started, was done with loans. And we didn't complete it. And I'm very sure most likely they put it up for sale, maybe. Because it didn't make sense at that time. What are you doing? How much is it going to bring back for you? What was the business plan in doing that? Yes, they said we're going to give it out, so we're going to be a hotel, renting, giving out the houses, the rooms, and then you get paid. As a state, was that the priority that we needed to do? Remember, if you're going to borrow money as an individual, you need to show that this money will be paid back at a particular time, and that this is going to be the income you're going to get. Look at the bypass you talked about. That bypass, at the time it was conceived, who conceived it? Was it the people or the government? If it was the government, which means the next government that came in naturally will drop it and say it doesn't make sense to us. So you can see that the way we are conceiving project is making us lose money. And when a human being loses this kind of money, it shows clearly that you have too much money to lose. And if you have too much money to lose, then you keep doing abandoned projects.
Okay, so this brings us to the point of the supposed directionless, initiation of projects. which doesn't breed continuation, because administration is supposed, a new administration is supposed to be continuity, regardless of what party, regardless of your ideologies, difference in ideologies, as long as there is an existing project that is similar to yours. So we see how there is like almost similar projects. While we had the Confluence Beach Hotel that needs rehabilitation, that is already dilapidated, we were erecting Kogi Hotel. So the funds, and the Kogi Hotel itself is yet to be completed. So the funds that were supposed to go into rehabilitating the Confluence Beach Hotel, that has historic leanings, and is also right in front of the meeting point of the Confluence River, Niger and River Benue. We've sunk in money into the Kogi Hotel. There is a possibility that hotel will not be completed.
It has been put up for sale.
Okay, can I quote you?
No. Kogi hotels have been put up for sale.
Do you have evidence?
No, the government, except if the government, as at this morning, comes up to say no, they are no longer putting it up. They actually advertise for sale of Kogi hotels.
Okay, thank you for this information.
It means clearly that, like you said, money meant for Confluence Beach moved to Kogi hotels. That was not completed. Now you put it up for sale. It doesn't make sense. It shows clearly that we don't have a strategic plan when it comes to going into business, going to doing things for income generation for the activities.
So what do you think? Where do you think the problem lies? Is it the pressure to want to show off that I started this, or the pressure to want to show off? You mentioned, I think it was Ambassador Idris who mentioned that everyone wants to show their legacy. Is it about legacy or delivery to the state, delivery to the needs, or responsiveness to the needs of the people?
Let's use this scenario. We just finished Salah celebration.
That's right.
So if you come to my house and you have the whole ram, maybe I've done it into something like a suya, and I give you a knife to cut the best part you wish to. You are at liberty to cut whichever part you feel is better for you. But if there's if I serve you, you may not have that luxury to decide which part you wanted, right? So now let me relate that to what's happening in governance in Nigeria generally. For every project we implement, for us that are in the civic space, we used to have an annual plan. We used to have strategic plan where we draw our annual plans from. What it means is that you might have done your need assessment over the years, engaging a lot of people, and you see the need gap and all that, and you come up with a plan of how to resolve them. Then that is now developed into a more broad strategic plan that you feed from every year on areas you want to touch as part of development. Now, as a state, like ours, Kogi State, it is expected that we have what we call a developmental compass, a development plan that we could say, okay, let's have let's have 10 years development plan, let's have 20 years development plan. So it's a compass. So every year, when you are coming up with your own annual budget and plans, you look into the broader picture, and you extract specifics what you want to achieve. But the system is so open and so loose that they never had the cost to consult with anybody to come up with the projects they want for the people. Because when they campaign, if you look at the trends of our campaign, the campaigns are not always about the issues, about the plans, what they want to do for the people. No, they just come and say we're going to make Kogi the next heaven,
business hub and all that,
and none of us ever care to ask them, can we have your plans? Let's see your plans, let's review it. Because even if you have it, a plan, it's something you sat down and draw up for yourself. It's going to affect me, I need to have an input into it. So that's why we had always advocated for what we call state developmental plan. These plans is not done politically. It is done by the state itself, that has a committee that comes up with a lot of projects and a compass, a plan. that people can feed from. So when people feed from such plan, these are things that people had contributed to. So when you are implementing such a project, the people will be pressurizing you to ensure you get it done. But no, the system here is that people come up and everybody wants to be initiator of a contract. Why? Because they will be the one to issue out the contract. Don't forget that when we say abandoned project, it means that the project has been initiated, contract has been issued, the procurement process has been done, contract has been issued out, the certain amount has been, pegged for that project, and a certain administration is in charge of that funding, releasing of the fund, and a certain administration is in charge of taking a loan to fund that particular project. So whatever income is in there for them, they might have taken it. So if you are coming the next time and you are going to be the next governor, would you go ahead to implement where you are not going to get any other financial kickback or whatever? No, you want to initiate something that you are part and parcel of the negotiation. Whatever it is in there for you, you will get it. You're not going to continue where somebody has started. So that is where the endemic issue of corruption has also comes in. So everybody want to start it up so that you benefit from the beginning, from that sweet thing there, while the project is ongoing. Because if you're going to continue a project, that means you're simply going to release funds to complete something. So I think these are some of the very tricky issues around abandoned project across Nigeria and Kogi State.
There was something Mrs. Hamza mentioned while he was talking. When he mentioned that, like, do we even need this project? When you go out, if you start from a bottom up, the first question is to ask if this project is is going to be beneficial to the people. So for instance, there was construction of drug rehabilitation center located at Karara village in Lokoja local government. It was awarded to Conventry Nigeria Limited at 240 million naira. Investigation revealed that 70% of the sum was said to have been released to the contractor, which unfortunately has not been functional. So when you also had touched part of it, when you release that amount of money to a contractor, there is an undertone, there is a message, and of course such amount of money will be released because, quote and unquote, we all know, we can begin to infer why such amounts will be released. But just to begin to bring us to that point that Mrs. Hamza made, we also had construction of Cottage Hospital at Kotunkarfe in Lokoja, that's in Kogi local government area, and then it was awarded in 2016 at the cost of 235 million naira, a cottage hospital. Okay. As at the last visit, we heard that 70% of the sum has been released and work was still ongoing after 3 years. After 3 years, a cottage hospital that is supposed to serve, as we know what that is. So make I use side mouth stay talk. Then again, there is also this Iluke Suku Ayetoro Agbugie Egan Road, where we have a 2-kilometer asphalt road and a kilometer surface dressing from Iluke to Suku, which was awarded to a contractor, and it was poorly done. It was poorly executed. The project was facilitated by Senator Dino Melaye in 2018. The remaining part of the road that led to Egan, as at when we got this report, has been washed off completely, leaving the road inaccessible, as all the communities along that road are cut off from the local government, especially during rainy season. So when we begin to look at it, we have lots and lots of abandoned projects. That the question, back to that question, what were there need assessment done before embarking on that? Because if there was a need, I think there will be a rush to want to finish.
Catherine, the problem is if you imagine that, because you said we should look at Nigeria. No, let's focus.
Back
laser
to
focus on
Kogi,
Kogi
yes.
because we're going to have an election. So we need to know, understand the problem. So you begin to put it on the table for those who want to govern us to say, if it was your personal funds, you were running the way Kogi State has been run, do you think you'll still be in business? Because we start projects, use public funds, and initiate a project. The project has not been completed. Talk less of whether it has been put into use. Talk less of whether it is giving value for money. And halfway into it, you drop that particular project. You jump to another one because you have enough money. It shows clearly that we are not poor. We keep saying we are poor. We're not poor. Our leaders keep telling the outside world that we are rich. We're so rich that we have the space to start an abandoned project recklessly. And nobody holds anybody accountable. When the issue of sales of Kogi assets came up, 2021, there was this outcry that what was the citizens' input into that issue? Because it's our commonwealth, it's a public asset that our funds, our collective funds, were used to procure. So if you want to sell it as a government, you need to call the people together to say, this is the reason why we want to put this up for sale. Either because we don't have money to continue to do it, or because it is no longer needed and we need to, or that the cost has become too much that we cannot continue to build, to construct it. And the people must give you the go-ahead because it's their money. Now the question is, where was that interaction done to say that this is what we want to sell and that this is the reason we want to sell it and let people make their contribution to it? We didn't have that kind of consultation. And that is why people are still... your reaction was the same almost if you go out to tell people that Kogi Hotels is up for sales, Big Conference Beach is up for sales. Some of our government liaison offices are up for sales. These are liaison offices that was built at the creation of Kogi State. Some of our public infrastructures like vehicles and government offices, they've been put up for sale. Not because Kogi State doesn't need them anymore, but because the present government feels that there's no need to have them. They need to dispose of them, probably to do more procurement and more construction. It may be a valid reason, but the thing is, you need to, like you said, we have laws that say you must connect to the people, you must ask questions, you must give them the opportunities to make their input. We don't do that.
So what's the implication of not giving the people a say? What's the implication?
It's already against the law, because the law says that you must provide an opportunity for people to make their inputs. And at several fora we have engaged the government to say, can you call the people and ask these questions? Let them agree that they want to sell it.
So in a situation where the government has not done this or not followed this process, what do you think the people can do?
It is left for people to say, when the next election comes, you did this to us and you didn't listen to us. So we're going to vote in a government that will listen to us. That is the only choice the people have.
Okay, so I want to ask Ambassador Idris, while we're talking, you mentioned something about open contracting that used to be, that is supposed to be a way to go when it comes to awarding contracts, and also the contracting law that asserts that a contractor should not be paid up to 70% at a go after bidding or winning a contract. And so there is a possibility that perhaps the information doled out may be a bit tricky or faulty. It could have been that these monies were paid in installments, but at least they'd gotten 70% of their payments. But first, let's understand what the procurement side of it entails first.
Okay, thank you very much. I would say I'm not a procurement expert anyway, but at least I have an idea of what the procurement law of the state talks about. One, it talks about the fact that for openness, even when there's any form of contract coming up, there's going to be an open bidding where civil society will be invited to serve as observers.
Okay.
What it means is talks about transparency. We observe the processes of the total number of people that have bidded, the contract, what they're bidding for and all that, the best value for money. We observe we're not to make comment or right, and what we observe, we're there to say. Then again, when it comes to issue of funding projects, the state law never said you can fund a project starting off with 70%. It's actually incremental, and it most times depends on negotiation. And before, when you hit 70%, by what the state law is talking about, it means the project is at the completion stage. So the person only gets reimbursement after the completion of the project. So nobody should be expecting 100% payment for a project before the project is completed. It's not possible. The law doesn't give room for that. Definitely, for those projects you just mentioned, why we were a bit concerned about it is that if the project has enjoined 70% releases, that means the project is already completed.
Sure.
Then they should come for their reimbursement of 30%. So it's a bit strange, and if things like this are happening in our own state where we have laws that are guided against it, that means we need to be more careful, and we need to also talk to our legislatures to do more job. They need to go out there and do oversight functions so that we don't have contractors taking us for a ride, taking our collective resources out here because maybe somebody somewhere is not complying to what the laws are saying.
Okay, thank you so much. And then to begin to draw at the next administration, draw their attention to all these lapses, and perhaps they will do better. So let's get it from
okay, thank you, Catherine. I think it's been a robust conversation, and in fact, I love the fact that those who called in were just dropping some of those projects that have been abandoned, and that's good. When you give people the opportunity to contribute, that's the beauty of it. They tell you where the issues are. Now, let's talk about. I would like to react to what somebody said. The last caller said, Ali Baba, when you talked about the bypass, the Wada road. Now, you can see what's playing out there. When you started a project that is less than 10% completed, and it is already named after that particular administration, the head of that particular administration, definitely the next administration will find it, will develop a cold feet to complete that, even though that is going to be a lot of good to the people, because all of them, they said legacy project. That's the problem, which is a mindset issue. We hope that with time we grow beyond that level. Then the second one is that of the oversight function issue. Now we have the executive, the legislatures, and the judiciary. We had thought, and that is what we're taught at school, that there's going to be a check and balance. That's why we have the People's House, which is the legislators, the State Assembly. Now, if you notice from what you read earlier, you talked about what EFCC has been able to do. ICPC. You see that they are only able to follow up on issues from the national, the funds that were released from the national, not the state government funds, not the state government projects. That is how some of these things works. We have a state like Kano that have their own anti-corruption agency in their own state, apart from ICPC, EFCC, and all that. They have their own to watch over. So such an agency, the state assembly can just write to them, note this based on the outcome of their own oversight function, that this thing needed to be investigated. They will do it. But in Kogi State, unfortunately, we don't have such. But making the case even worse for us is that the 8th Assembly, right? The 8th Assembly, we talked on several fora. We encouraged them to go out there and do oversight function, because that's why they were voted in there, to do check and balance. Not just to appropriation, not the appropriation passing it on Sundays. No, we're asking them to go out there and see some of those projects that has been earmarked to be implemented, that has not been implemented. What are the issues, so that they raise it at the committee level and resolve it. But we didn't have much of that coming from them. So we hope the 9th Assembly, led by the Honorable Speaker Omar, will do something about that. We need to engage these people, get a job done. The incoming government need to also sit tight, because it's not going to be an easy ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride. We need to get the job done. Those abandoned projects are projects for Kogi State, and they need to put our money where our mouths are, so that we get the job done.
Okay, thank you so much. A final word coming from you, Mr. and Mrs. Hamza. Mr. and Mrs. in one person.
Like you said, it's an ongoing conversation, not something that we should just, it's not a one-off thing. And so it's important that as responsible people, as citizens, government, we must be accountable to our people and ensure that we get the best value for money, because it's not just about starting project or completing project. It's possible you complete a project that's not needed by the people and it's completed. So we need to ensure that citizens are involved in the processes, and that we go back and give them feedback on how the process are. It makes it more transparent, and people get to accept the outcome of the process itself.
Thank you so much. It's really been a robust, conversation this morning with Ambassador Idris Uzovehe and Mr. and Mrs. Hamza Ali. Thank you both for making up time to join us to talk on issues with Catherine this beautiful day. We're going to let you go now, but I want to say thank you to you who's joined us on the show. Thanks for your contribution. We do hope that we'll see you again, same time, same station next week. Do have a profitable day.